Here we go. We're rolling now.
All set?
Yes, sir.
Call the meeting to order. The first item is to approve the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Let the record show it passed 5-0. Before we go into the executive session, I just had a question for the superintendent. I see that we have a football coach that contracted COVID-19. Could you bring us up to speed on where that stands?
Yes, sir. We did, and there was in this case there was a reason for him to be tested, not necessarily having symptoms, and he did quarantine himself. There was a discrepancy of whether one day whether he did or not. He was at practice, but he social distanced and stayed away from everybody, although he was present. And it's been completely separated since then. And in a recent meeting with the other superintendents in our RESA district and 3 members of the Department of Public Health, it was quite obvious that they do not have the staff in order to do contact tracing in a quick enough manner to contain and limit the spread of the virus once somebody's been tested positive. Typically, what they would like for us to do is send the sick person home and keep our operations going as normal. But there are so many variations of how we learn about it and when we learn about it that I fully expect that there'll continue to be temporary closures or suspension of practices as we move forward. Other school systems are doing the same. Incidentally, we did make the news with this today, but it was just mentioning us, Morgan County, and about 4 other school systems who've actually suspended practice to deal with this. I think that we're at a point where we can't hide in the closet. Life has to continue on, and so I shared with the parent this morning that it's important now that we lock arm in arm and start fighting the virus and not each other, and that we be open and respond to the public. We let everybody know as quickly as possible. There was some concern that we didn't that we use social media to make the notification. And I pointed out that it's very difficult these days to outrun the internet and to let individual parents know all at the same time without some kind of mass communication. So I think that was understood and accepted. And moving forward, we'll continue to try to let everybody know and sound the alarm. It's not a I got you moment. It's a way to be responsible and looking out for safety first. And I think that's what the parents want out of us. And so I reassured the parents that we were going to be 110% committed to trying to keep our buildings clean, to follow the safety protocols, follow our policies, and that the board was taking action tonight to make the buildings cleaner and safer. The staff, we had a long staff meeting today to further discuss the protocols and the steps and how we would respond in different situations. And even though the recommendations from DPH is changing, and it changed yesterday, we're responding as quickly as we can. And at some point, life got to continue. And, if you look at the mortality rates, it's way below that of the flu now. And even though we still see that we're in a widespread scenario and fear continues to climb, there's got to be a voice of reason somewhere. And so I'm encouraging the parents to communicate with me on a personal level. I'm giving out my cell phone number. Trust me, they're using it. And we're working on any way possible to make sure that we put their safety first, their child's education second, and do our best to be ready and prepared in the best way possible. So I think there's been more uh, more of them are embracing the direction we're heading, and day by day and week by week, I hope that we're able to build more trust in the minds of our parents so that we can all respond to this together and look after our children and their education.
Great, great. Okay, before we go into executive session, let's do the prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. Um, Lord, we are meeting today to conduct matters of education, guide our hearts and our minds in a spirit of fairness, right thought, and speech. Impart your supreme wisdom upon our activities so that our affairs may reach a successful conclusion. Thank you for being our source of guidance today. Amen.
Yeah.
Pledge allegiance to the
To the
flag
flag
of
Flag
the United
of the
States
United
States of
States of
America,
America,
and to the
and to the
republic
republic which
and
which
stands
stands
one nation,
nation,
under God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty and
liberty and
liberty
justice
and
for all.
justice for all.
Okay. Do I have a motion to go into executive session where action will be taken?
So moved.
We have a second.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Not, I will, well, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Let the record show it passed 5-0. We'll now go into executive session. I'm waiting. Here we go. Okay. I think we're all back. Can anybody tell? I'm not quite sure how to look at who's in and who's out here. Show grid.
I see everybody but Clarence.
Mr. Hunt is back from the office.
Clarence, are you back?
I haven't seen a prompt to go back yet.
Well, you're here. We hear you. You're there.
Okay.
All right, so we're all here. So we're back on the action agenda. First item is the ionization units. Mr. Superintendent, you're on. Oh, we lost Chris. Chris? We'll give it a second. He'll probably log back on here in a second.
I see him.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. All right.
You're
let's
on,
try-
we're on ionization units.
Okay. So the recommendation is to purchase the global plasma ionization units with an installation from ACS in the price not to exceed $125,000 to cover the quoted price plus unforeseen incidentals. And just a quick explanation on that. The way we quoted this, the manufacturer gave us all the items that we needed, and we got quotes based on that. So just in case there's a piece or two we missed, we feel like it'd be smart to say up to 125 instead of the actual quote was, I think, 120,000 and something.
Okay, do I have a motion to purchase the global plasma ionization units with an installation from ACS price in the amount not to exceed $125,000 to cover quoted price plus unforeseen incidentals?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion or questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yep,
is there a warranty on these?
Yes, sir. There's warranties on them, and from talking to the manufacturer, the only risk that they've run into, they have like a pretty much a solid shelf life for 15 years, and he said what they've seen so far is if you get it, you hook it up, and it starts running, you probably will not have a problem out of it. Every once in a while, they'll get one that's kind of, for lack of better words, dead on arrival. It just doesn't work when you first put it in, and they said they'll replace those right away. But maybe one out of every 400 they've run into that. But these are virtually have no maintenance to them. They're self-cleaning, and so once they turn on, they're good to go.
but there is a warranty of 6 months.
Yes, sir.
Chris, now this is the units and installation,
Correct.
and so ACS would be providing the systems plus the installation.
Correct. And because they're providing both, it'll really cut us out of the warranty issue as far as we're not caught in between the provider and the installer.
And this is for the primary school, Carson, the high school, and LOA. That's
No,
correct?
And the
This-
pre-K, and the pre-K.
in the pre-K, and then I'm going to recommend LOA on a separate 1A recommendation. We'll have to do that one next.
Now,
Oh, I see it. My bad.
Okay.
yeah. As I told you, I put one of these units in my system. I was very pleased to see the test results that you attached here. I mean, these things work. Like 99% kill rate for viruses, including specifically COVID-19.
Yes, sir.
So this is, I think we're fortunate that we've got the units. I'm surprised they're available, that every school system in the world is trying, which should be trying to get one of these.
It's
When
always coming out of SPLOST.
yes, that's correct.
Okay, any further questions, discussion? If not, all those in favor, please raise or say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Let the record show it passed 5-0. All right, item 1A.
Item 1A is based on a request from Dr. Tucker. The recommendation is to approve Wilson Bryant Air Conditioning to provide HVAC ionization units for the buildings at LOA owned by the Greene County School System in the amount of $54,000.
Do I have a motion to approve Wilson Air Conditioning to provide HVAC ionization units for the buildings at LOA owned by the Greene County School System in the amount of $4,000?
So moved.
Have a second?
I'll second it.
Do we have any questions or discussion?
I know they're using a different vendor. Does the pricing kind of equate to what we're spending on the county side?
It does. It's in line. It took a little while to verify that. You know, it's really based on the cost of the unit, and then installation is comparable.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think this is a really good thing for both the conventional school system and LOA. It's we should be doing everything we can possibly do to ensure the safety of the kids and teachers, and this is a big step.
Yes, sir.
Anything else from anybody? If not, all those in favor of this motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Let the record show it passed 5-0. All right, item number 2, Mr. Superintendent.
Yeah, item number 2 is academic calendar, and I should apologize. I left this off the last agenda, so this is playing catch up and clean up. The recommendation is recommended that the board approve the revised academic calendar with start date of August 17th for the 2021 school year.
I have a motion to approve the academic calendar with the start date of August 17th for the 2021 school year.
So moved.
I have a second.
Second.
Any discussion or questions?
I got a quick question. I'm just wanting to make sure that we've done our due diligence reaching out to the parents to make sure that the parents are comfortable and aware of how this is being handled with the additional intersections and so forth.
I can say that we have reached out to them in every way we knew how in order to get their opinion on how they wanted to start the school year, whether they were choosing online or in person, and the intercession part. Quite frankly, if nothing happens, it'll that's something we'll be communicating as we go. But we start next week full time with all the staff and teachers back, and we start our pre-planning. And so once we make sure we have all the details, then we'll start communicating with the parents. Initially they're gonna ask that question: is it going to be in person or is it going to be virtual? And that's a day by day as we go. But we will make sure that what we have not communicated thus far we do. But I feel like we've done a really good job letting them know up at this point.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
is the plan still to have the pre-K through third grade pretty much face-to-face, or has that changed?
Mr. Chairman, that hadn't changed. We did have more parents select virtual learning than we anticipated, but at the primary school we have about 433 students, and had about 150 roughly that wanted to do virtual learning, and so we should not have any more than about 150 50 at the most students in the building at any given time. Half will come on Monday and Tuesday. We'll do a deep cleaning. The other half come on Wednesday and Thursday, do a deep cleaning. And then Fridays will be virtual learning and intercession type work, remediation, acceleration, and those things, social emotional learning. So it's a way for us to be able to spread out, practice social distancing, make it safe for the kids who chose to do face-to-face instruction. And so, and of course, the reason for all of that is that's the students at that age need face-to-face as much as possible. And we've had quite a few parents back up and say, you know what, I think I want to do that. So typically we've asked them to commit to 9 weeks, but we've been allowing them to change their mind and come back to face, and so we're accommodating that. Right now, we have about 6 classes per grade, and 2 teachers out of those classes will be assigned to virtual learning for each grade. So that's kind of the breakdown.
As time progresses, let's say 3 weeks from now, can parents switch back to in-person learning, or do they have to wait for the 9-week?
Well, we've asked them, you know, we've actually told them that once they make that decision, we start school, they're committed to that for 9 weeks.
Okay.
Because mainly we'll be assigning staff based on those numbers.
Yeah, I understand. Any other questions or discussion items? If not, all those in favor of this motion, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Let the record show it passed 5-0. All right, let's go on to item D3.
Number 3, Mr. Chairman, is the recommendation is to approve the purchase of 500 Verizon mobile hotspots at a cost of $30,000 to be paid for through eSPOS funding. It should be noted that operation of those hotspots will be a local cost from the budget, but we did budget, or we do have that in the budget for next year. One good thing is that if we get back to face-to-face instruction, we don't have to maintain the operation of those. So we would save about right at $10,000 a month in operation costs.
Do I have a motion to approve the purchase of 500 Verizon mobile hotspots at a cost of $30,000?
So move.
Have a second?
I'll second it.
Any questions or discussion? Go ahead.
How are these being distributed to individuals? Are they just a regular hotspot where they have to be distributed to individuals?
They are individual hotspots, but more than one person can use them in a household. So ideally, if we have several parents I've talked to that have 2 or 3 students at different different grades, and so one hotspot could handle that household. And I should point out there are 2 different levels of hotspots, and we're going to we'll be able to let Verizon know ahead of time. You know, we either need we need the standard or the high power. For lack of
So you determined the 500 by doing a mapping of the county, and I was surprised when I saw the map how many spots there are in the county that don't have Wi-Fi. And the second thing is, can you comment a little bit? You know, we got around this, or tried to get around it in the spring by sending 8 to 12 school buses out every morning. Will this be better than the school buses?
Well, with the school buses at the time, we were not probably as concerned as we are now about creating a gathering, and the school bus would create a gathering. You would hope if we have to do that, it would be a last resort and everybody would practice social distancing. We're also looking at, and it may not be a cost factor to bring before the board, but we're looking at some localized public buildings in Siloam, Woodville, Gresham Field, White Plains, where we can establish a landline internet connection and add a firewall and wireless, so that parents could come there if they need to. I'm sure that that'll take some uh, managing to also not have a gathering in that place. So the hotspots are preferred because of that. It can support the social distancing. And one of the challenges that we've had, but I look forward to overcoming this, is knowing which students, um, you know, live in which households, because we have a number of students that live with grandparents or other relatives, and so it'll make our data cleaner, and we'll be a lot more responsive to communicating with parents once we get to the bottom of this. So that's going to be helpful, and it'll help us spread the 500 hotspots further.
Chris, if we're going to do these 500 hotspots and they're better, why would we want to look at doing hotspots in Siloam, Union Point, Greshamville, White Plains?
Be one reason is because I don't trust the maps. Even though the maps came from a good place, and I'm fixing to get a little bit out there on my knowledge of the internet and the data, but our IT people are telling me that the maps are not quite accurate like what we think they are. I got an email just this afternoon that that our chamber is working on trying to develop a little more accurate maps so that we can see all the providers, not just AT&T and Verizon. And you know, the whole goal. I got a request from Senator Perdue's office wanting to know what they could do, and my response was that we need an internet ready community. And so I think that the chamber, it sounds like the chamber is fixing to take that on as trying to accurately show where we're at, and so that we can start plugging holes. And so I'm trying to have a plan, you know, for as many kids as possible. I don't want to leave anybody behind if I can help it.
Did I also understand that if we go face to face, we can drop this, and
Yes.
if we go back to virtual, so we can go back and forth?
We can, and here's something to think about though. The hotspots and what we're doing right now is trying to support distance learning. At some point though, well, we're going to a learning management system, and for the record of everybody listening, it's called Canvas, and that will guide instruction both in the classroom and at home, whether we're virtual or not, and becoming an internet ready community will only make our students stronger because they can log onto our network anytime. Some students work better independently, and we have our RISE program that is really a new beginning a year ago towards a hybrid model. And so even though it won't be a matter of emergency status needing the internet connection, it will make us a better and stronger school system, and will support teaching and learning if we're able to afford to maintain it moving forward.
So the $30,000 is an annual number based on?
No,
Now that we're buying it, and
we're buying it.
but the $10,000 a month roughly is what it costs to operate all 500 of them. The connectivity fee ongoing and the monitoring, y'all. I didn't know this until most recently, but in those devices is for lack of better words, a quasi firewall. We have to meet the Child Internet Protection Act, and so it provides that buffer in what they can look at on the internet through our firewall, through our hotspots.
So are we
just
going
like-
to have a separate recommendation to discuss the annual fee?
That's going to be in the budget.
it'll be in the budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just like you've done wonderful job with Chromebooks. I noticed the last report that we lost very few of them. We did not have a replication of the iPad fiasco. Presumably, we keep tabs on these 500 hotspots. When we're not using, we collect them back because we may need them a second time. So hopefully you'll do the same great job you did on Chromebooks.
Thank you. I think we will. And one last thing to point out to you guys is because of all of this, we no longer will have to close for snow days and hurricanes. We'll go virtual just with the flip of the switch.
Fantastic.
Quick question.
I noticed in your calendar that you have a couple of days each year where you're training on virtual learning or using things like hotspots. So when you do have a hurricane or a presumably they'll know what to do because they've been trained.
It will definitely make Dr. Tucker happy. We won't close for snow days anymore.
I'm sorry, I interrupted. Somebody had a question.
I had a quick question. On these units, if one of them does get lost, comes up missing or whatever, I'm assuming we can cut that particular unit off individually so that we're
Yes.
not paying the monthly fee on that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Any other questions? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Let the record show it passed 5-0. All right, item 3A.
Recommendation is to purchase 200 hotspots at a price not to exceed $60 per unit with the total cost of $12,000 for LOA.
Do I have a motion to purchase 200 hotspots at a price not to exceed $60 per unit with a total cost of $12,000?
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Any discussion or questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
the hot spots are not the same all over the county?
Chris?
They are just, we had a number we needed and LOA had requested, 200. I could have made one recommendation for 700, but it's easier this way because they will have to pay their connectivity fee out of their budget and we'll pay our connectivity fee out of our budget. That makes sense.
Looking at at our attachments, what I'm seeing here under A, the costs are the same. It's almost apparently we
I just duplicated I didn't have at the time actual quote for LOA. But
okay.
I'm showing you what they cost per. That's why I worded it per unit $60. That's what we're paying.
Okay. Another quick question: has there been any discussion with LOA that any of these things are going to be in the same household? I know there still are some children out there that some of them are going to LOA and some of them are going to our system, to where they're not getting. They can utilize the same one. Has that been looked at all?
It has not. I have communicated with Jay on a number of fronts, and incidentally, Jay and I are discussing the possibility of petitioning Verizon to include the first year service with the purchase, and we're also looking at some possible grants. So hopefully, this thing turns out better financially than what we're presenting. But quite frankly, I did think about more than one kid in a household, but I wasn't thinking about a split household between the two schools. So that's a good point.
Hey, any other questions? If not, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The record show it passed 5-0. All right, so the last is personnel recommendations per discussion in executive sessions. So,
Yes, sir.
Your
Mr.
Honor.
Jefferson, the recommendation is to approve personnel item number 1 recommendations as discussed in executive session.
We have a motion to approve personnel item number 1 recommendation is discussed in the executive session.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Let the record show it's 5-0. Any further items, from anybody's standpoint? I think that concludes the meeting. I'd just like to conclude by complimenting the superintendent and his staff. This is incredibly unusual times, and I'm very proud of the initiatives and the imagination that's been used to try to continue to educate our kids despite COVID-19. So my congratulations and accolades to your staff. Okay, with that, I will declare the meeting adjourned.
Good meeting. Thank you, guys.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Have a good evening, all.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.